My cousin slept through every relationship I brought home. Until I accidentally showed up with her former therapist. Throwaway because some of my family members are lurkers and I don't want this traced back to my main. I'm Maya, 33F, and I grew up in South Texas in one of those families where there's a standing group chat for every branch of the family tree, and missing a holiday is treated like a personal attack on the concept of tradition. My abuela basically runs the family like a small government, and if you don't show up to Christmas Eve, New Year's Day lunch, Easter, and at least one summer cookout, people start doing wellness checks. My cousin Brielle is on my mom's side and she's 3 years younger than me. She was the kid everyone called bright, special, gifted, and the one who's going places. Even when she got caught lying or being cruel, it got turned into, she just has a big personality. Brielle is also, objectively, stunning. Like, pageant pretty. The kind of pretty that makes strangers smile at her like they already know her. She grew up learning that if she wanted something, she just had to tilt her head a certain way and people would hand it to her. And the thing is, she doesn't just like attention, she treats it like oxygen. I'm not ugly, I'm not a troll living under a bridge, I'm fine. But I'm the kind of attractive where people are pleasantly surprised after talking to me, not the kind where people trip over a curb the second I walk into a room. The first time I noticed Brielle doing what she does, I was 24 and dating Ethan. He was a quiet, sweet guy, worked IT, had this gentle energy, and I genuinely liked him. We'd been together about 5 months, long enough that it felt normal to bring him to family stuff. Christmas Eve was at my aunt's house, big buffet table, loud music, kids running around with sugar highs. Brielle showed up in a backless dress that looked like it belonged at a rooftop lounge, not next to a bowl of tamales. No one said anything. No one ever says anything. Ethan and I were standing near the kitchen, and Brielle slid into the conversation like she was joining a stage mid-performance, not interrupting real people. Within 2 minutes she was laughing too loudly, touching his forearm like she was checking if he was real, asking him questions that weren't even questions, more like auditions. What's your sign? Do you like adventurous girls? Are you more of a bad decisions guy or a safe choices guy? I'm right there, holding a plate, and she's behaving like I'm a lamp. Later I found them outside on the patio. Not doing anything explicit, but standing close in that I want you to see us standing close way. When I walked up, she did this innocent smile and said, "We were just talking about you, Maya. Ethan says you're so grounded." Grounded. Like I'm a houseplant. Ethan and I broke up a month later. He insisted it wasn't because of her, he just wasn't ready for serious, but then he was ready to start showing up in Brielle's Instagram comments like clockwork. That should have been the one-off. It wasn't. It became a tradition, like cranberry sauce. There was Leo when I was 26. He taught middle school science and was the first guy who ever made my family laugh. Brielle spent half of Easter asking him about kids and teaching and how she's always had a soft spot for men who do important work. Then she asked him to help her carry stuff to her car, and somehow he was gone for 20 minutes. There was Jordan, the guy I dated at 28, who was genuinely obsessed with me. Like, writes me notes and brings me coffee obsessed. Brielle had him taking selfies with her by the end of 4th of July because it's just a picture, and then I found out he'd been texting her as friends 4 weeks after, but the friendship was suspiciously full of heart emojis. There was Nate, who I brought to a New Year's Day lunch. Brielle cornered him near the drink cooler and started telling him she always felt misunderstood, and he fell for the "I'm secretly deep" act so hard that he came back to me and asked why I didn't try harder to connect with my cousin because she seems like she's going through a lot. I started to dread holidays. Not because I hate my family, but because I could feel the script loading the minute Brielle walked in. And here's the part that messed with my head the most, my family treated it like a me problem. My mom would do that soft voice thing, "Maya, she's just friendly, she doesn't mean it." My aunt would say, "Well, you know men, they're visual." My abuela once said, "If you don't want someone to take your man, you have to keep your man interested." Like I'm supposed to be competing at a family party. Like love is a chair you have to sit on first or someone else will. So I stopped bringing dates. 4 years. I still dated, I wasn't hiding in a cave. I just kept my romantic life separate, because it felt safer to be lonely at the table than humiliated in front of everyone. Then, last year, I met Cal. Cal is 35, and he has the steady presence that makes chaos feel quieter. He's not flashy. He's the kind of guy who remembers the name of your coworker's dog because you mentioned it once. He works in mental health, not as a therapist, but in program administration for a nonprofit that supports people after traumatic events. We dated for almost a year before I brought up my family issue. I finally told him everything, not as a funny story, but as the ugly pattern it was. He didn't laugh. He didn't minimize it. He just said, "So your cousin repeatedly crosses boundaries and your family enables it?" Yes. Exactly. He wanted to come with me to my abuela's birthday dinner, which is basically a holiday in my family. I warned him. Sat him down, warned him. Brielle will flirt, she'll touch you, she'll try to pull you away, she'll test you. I need you to stay close to me and not get sucked into it. Cal squeezed my hand and said, I'm coming because I want to be part of your life, not because I need your family's approval. And if someone disrespects you, I'm not going to entertain it. I almost cried right there because I'd never had a partner frame it like that. So we went. We arrived at the restaurant and my family was already loud. My abuela cried when she saw me. My uncle immediately started grilling Cal like it was a job interview. Then Brielle showed up late, of course, like the event couldn't begin until she arrived. She came in wearing a dress that screamed, I am the main character, and she scanned the room, saw Cal, and her face did that tiny spark thing, like a slot machine lighting up. She came over and said, Hi, I'm Brielle, and then she looked Cal up and down with zero shame. Cal smiled politely, gave a brief handshake, and said, Nice to meet you, I'm Cal. Brielle tried to keep his hand for an extra second. He gently pulled it back like it was nothing. I braced myself anyway, because I've seen nothing turn into something over the course of one dinner. But Cal stayed by my side. When Brielle interrupted our conversation, he'd answer with short, neutral responses, then turn back to me. When she laughed too hard at something he said, he didn't reward it. When she touched his sleeve, he stepped just slightly away without making a scene. It was subtle. It was surgical. It was beautiful. At one point Brielle tried the classic move, Cal, can you come help me pick a wine for the table? You look like you have taste. Cal said, I trust your judgment, then asked my abuela about her childhood like he was interviewing for a documentary. Brielle looked, confused. Like she'd pulled a lever and nothing came out. I thought, for the first time in my adult life, maybe this pattern was finally broken. After dinner we went back to my aunt's house for cake. People were scattered around the living room and kitchen. I stepped away to help wash dishes because in my family, love is measured in chores. When I came back, I saw Brielle standing too close to Cal by the hallway, angled like she was blocking him from walking away. Her hand was on his upper arm, and she was talking low, like she wanted privacy in a crowded house. My stomach dropped because my body remembers. I didn't run over. I forced myself to walk calmly, like I wasn't about to pass out. As I got closer, I heard Brielle say, You seem like someone who understands people. I've had a hard year. Sometimes I think Maya resents me. Cal's voice was calm, but it was different than his social voice, it was firmer. He said, I'm going to stop you there. It's not appropriate to talk about Maya like she isn't in the room, and it's not appropriate for you to touch me. Brielle blinked like she'd been slapped. Cal continued, If you have an issue with Maya, talk to Maya. I'm not a bridge you get to use to compete with her. Then he stepped around her and walked straight to me like the hallway wasn't a hallway, it was a battlefield and he'd just chosen his side. He put his hand on my back and said, Ready to go? I nodded, because if I spoke I would have started shaking. We said quick goodbyes and left. In the car, I asked what she said before I walked up. Cal hesitated, like he was choosing his words carefully. Then he said, She told me you've always been fragile and that you need someone patient, and then she said she's always been drawn to men who can handle intensity. I stared at the dashboard like it personally offended me. Then Cal added, She also asked if I was still seeing clients. I said, What? He sighed, Maya, I need to tell you something, and it's going to sound insane. Cal told me he recognized Brielle. Not from family stories, from work. He used to be a licensed therapist years ago before he moved into admin work. Brielle had been a client briefly during that period, years back, and he'd referred her out when it became clear she wasn't engaging honestly in treatment. He said, very clearly, he had never dated a client and would never date a client. He said he had strict boundaries and had even consulted with an ethics colleague when he and I started getting serious, because my family is local and he wanted to make sure there were no conflicts. I felt like the ground shifted. Out of everyone in the city, I ended up dating the one man who not only wouldn't fall for Brielle, but who already knew exactly what she was. And Brielle just tried to flirt with her former therapist at my abuela's birthday dinner. That night I barely slept because my brain kept replaying it, like, of course this happened to me. Of course the universe would pick the most complicated version of I finally brought a good one home. The next morning my mom called. Not to ask if I got home safe, but to say Brielle was crying because she felt humiliated and attacked by Cal. My mom said, she said he spoke to her like she was dirty. I said, he told her to stop touching him and stop talking about me behind my back. My mom replied, well, maybe he could have said it kinder. And there it was again, the family reflex, protect Brielle, sand down her consequences, hand her sympathy like it's a birthright. Then my aunt called and said I was wrong for bringing Cal without disclosing that he was Brielle's therapist. Cal was never her therapist while we were together, and he doesn't even practice therapy anymore, but they didn't care, they just wanted a reason to make me the problem again. Brielle texted me a single line, you're sick for doing that to me. I didn't respond. Update, Brielle tried to make Cal the villain, and my family lined up to help her. This update is happening faster than I expected. 2 days after the dinner, Cal got an email from someone in Brielle's social circle, basically a weird concerned message implying that Cal had behaved inappropriately with Brielle and that she was considering reporting him. Cal showed me the email, and I felt like I couldn't breathe. Because I knew what that meant. It meant Brielle couldn't handle not being the winner, so she needed to flip the story until she was the victim and I was the monster who set her up. Cal stayed calm in a way that made me both grateful and furious, because I wanted to drive to Brielle's apartment and scream until my throat gave out. He told me he'd already documented everything, time, date, location, what happened in the hallway, who was present in the house, and he'd contacted his former supervisor from when he used to practice to ask for guidance on how to protect himself if Brielle tried to file a complaint. He also told me something I didn't know. Back when Brielle was his client, he terminated professionally because she repeatedly attempted to blur boundaries. He said it wasn't dramatic, just the same pattern, charm, testing, pushing, then anger when she didn't get what she wanted. He didn't share details, because he legally can't, but he said enough that my stomach turned. Because it wasn't just she steals boyfriends, it was she hunts for power. Meanwhile my family group chat exploded. My aunt said I ambushed Brielle. My mom said I should have warned everyone. My cousin, not Brielle, said, you knew Brielle's struggles, why would you bring someone from her past into the family environment? Which is a wild sentence to send when this someone from her past is a person I met independently and fell in love with. I finally snapped and wrote, Brielle has repeatedly disrespected me for over a decade, and every time I brought it up, you told me I was jealous or sensitive. Now a man sets a boundary with her and suddenly it's a crisis. My abuela called me privately, which never happens. She asked, is it true Brielle feels unsafe? I told her, abuela, if Brielle felt unsafe, she wouldn't have tried to corner Cal alone. She's angry because she couldn't control him. My abuela was quiet for a long time, then she said something that shocked me. She said, your cousin has always needed an audience. That's all she said, but it felt like the first honest thing an elder in my family had ever admitted. Then the real twist, my younger brother, who normally avoids drama like it's contagious, told me Brielle had been telling people she and Cal had history and that he still reacts to her, which made me want to throw my phone into the ocean. Cal and I decided we were going low contact with most of my family for a while. And then, 3 nights ago, Brielle showed up at my mom's house sobbing, saying she couldn't sleep because she keeps replaying the hallway moment and feels violated. My mom repeated that word to me, violated, and I saw red. Because boundaries are not violations. Consequences are not abuse. Someone declining you is not harm. I told my mom, if Brielle files anything, we will defend ourselves. And after that, I'm done. I'm not doing this dance anymore. My mom started crying and said, why are you tearing the family apart? I said, I didn't tear it apart. I just stopped pretending it isn't already broken. Cal has been supportive, but I can tell this scares him. Not because he did anything wrong, but because he knows how systems work. He knows that sometimes the loudest person gets believed first. Yesterday, Brielle texted me again. One last chance, tell your boyfriend to apologize to me, or I'm going to protect myself. I didn't respond. Cal did. He sent a single message, calm and professional, saying he would not communicate further with her and that any future contact should go through appropriate channels. Then he blocked her. Last night I got a voicemail from my aunt calling me cold and vengeful and saying, maybe Brielle wouldn't act this way if you weren't always competing with her. I listened to it twice, and then I deleted it. Because I realized something, my family isn't confused about Brielle, they're committed to her story. Brielle is the shiny object that keeps everyone distracted from their own mess. As long as Brielle is special, nobody has to look too closely at anything else. I don't know what happens next. I'm scared she'll escalate. I'm also exhausted in a way I can't explain to anyone who hasn't grown up in a family that treats one person's dysfunction like a sacred artifact. Cal asked me last night if I want to move in together sooner than planned, not as a romantic milestone, but as a practical choice so we have one home base while my family spirals. And I said yes. Not because Brielle wins, but because I'm done organizing my life around her chaos. Final update, Brielle tried to set a fire, and then she got scared of the smoke. This is going to sound fake. I wish it was. A week after my last update, Brielle did contact someone about filing a complaint. Not the police, not a dramatic false report like people kept hinting at, but a professional complaint route, the kind that can still drag a person through months of stress even if nothing comes of it. Here's why it backfired. Cal doesn't practice anymore. He doesn't have an active caseload. There was nothing current for her to report in the way she wanted. And because he'd already spoken to a former supervisor and documented everything, he wasn't scrambling. Also, Brielle did something Brielle always does, she talked too much. She sent a long, emotional message to a family member, who forwarded it to my brother, who forwarded it to me, where she said, in writing, that she was furious because Cal acted like he was above her, and that she refuses to be treated like some desperate girl, and that she won't let Maya win this time. Not I felt unsafe. Not I was harmed. I won't let Maya win. It was the most honest thing she'd ever written. My brother told Brielle, bluntly, that if she escalated, he'd show that message to anyone who needed to see it. I expected Brielle to go nuclear. Instead, she went quiet. 2 weeks passed, then my mom called me and asked if I could meet her. She sounded smaller than usual, like she didn't have her normal script. I met her at a cafe, and she told me Brielle had been having panic attacks. Real ones. Not the performative crying she does when she wants attention, actual shaking, not sleeping, vomiting from anxiety panic. My aunt had finally insisted Brielle see a therapist again, a new one. Then my mom said, Brielle wants to talk to you. I almost laughed. Because for years, if I tried to talk to Brielle about anything, she'd either mock me or act like I was obsessed with her. Now she wanted to talk. I told my mom, if it's another performance, I'm leaving. My mom nodded like she understood. We met Brielle at my aunt's house. It was the first time I'd seen her without the full armor, lashes, hair, perfect outfit, the whole production. She looked normal, tired, like her face didn't know which mask to pick. She didn't hug me. She just said, I'm sorry. And it wasn't the polite sorry people say to end a conflict. It was the kind of sorry that sounds like someone admitting they'd been lying to themselves. She told me, in plain language, that she's always needed to feel chosen. That when she sees me happy, a part of her panics like she's being erased. That she's been competing with me since we were kids and she doesn't even remember why it started, only that it felt like the only way she knew how to exist. Then she said the sentence I never thought I'd hear. I didn't want Cal. I wanted to know I still could. I didn't forgive her. Not then. Maybe not ever. But I did tell her the truth, that she ruined things for me for years, that she made family gatherings feel like a trap, and that the worst part wasn't even her behavior, it was everyone excusing it and telling me to swallow it. Brielle cried. Quietly. Without an audience reaction. My aunt actually looked ashamed, which was new. Before I left, Brielle asked if I could do her one favor. She said she planned to send Cal an apology letter, not a manipulative one, not a sorry you felt that way, but an actual apology, and she wanted me to read it first to make sure it didn't sound like she was trying to bait him into responding. That request alone told me something had shifted, because old Brielle would rather chew glass than ask me for help in a way that put me above her. I told her I wouldn't read it. Not because I wanted revenge, but because I refused to be her accountability buddy. I said, if you're changing, change because you want to, not because you want me to witness it. She nodded like it hurt, but she accepted it. Cal and I moved in together in early fall. It's a small place, not fancy, but it's peaceful. The kind of peaceful that feels unfamiliar when you've lived your whole life around noise. And here's the last part, the one that makes me feel like I'm living in an alternate timeline. My cousin texted me last week and said she's engaged. To a woman she met through a support group. She didn't make it a big dramatic announcement. It was a simple message, I'm engaged, I wanted you to hear it from me, no pressure to respond. My brother called me and said, are you okay? And the truth is, yeah, I'm okay. Because for the first time, Brielle's life isn't orbiting my life. She's not trying to steal my oxygen. She's just, over there, living. She asked, through my mom, if I'd come to the engagement party. Not the wedding, not a huge family event, just a small thing at a restaurant with a limited guest list. I haven't answered yet. Cal told me he'll support whatever I choose, and if I do go, he'll come with me, not as a shield, but as a steady hand. So that's where it ends for now. Not with a big revenge moment, not with everyone suddenly clapping because they finally see it, but with something quieter and stranger. My family starting to realize Brielle isn't a fairy tale. Brielle is a person who's been hurting people for a long time, and I'm allowed to step out of the blast zone. If anyone's been in a family like this, where one person's behavior is treated like weather and everyone else is expected to just pack an umbrella, how did you decide what low contact looked like without guilt eating you alive?